At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Chicago Cubs. Tuesday Night Baseball is presented by Verizon. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Hyundai. Hyundai invites you to get in your comfort zone with the most advanced Elantra yet. Visit your Hyundai dealer today. By Bob's Discount Furniture, quality, choice, and untouchable value every day. By Geico, over 75 years of savings and service. By Verizon, don't miss a moment of Mets baseball on the largest, most reliable 4G LTE network only from Verizon. And by Toyota, see where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. So, Jacob, how was your weekend? Not bad. How was yours, Steve? Well, I did some pitching. I did a little bit of hitting. Hey, did you hear Murph's back today? It might help out the offense. You know, Grandy's been going great, but the rest of them, we need to get some offense. Maybe tonight. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you tonight as the Mets open a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs. And yes, after 22 games away, Daniel Murphy is back in the Mets lineup tonight, coming back from a quad injury, and the Mets hope that Murphy in the cleanup spot can rev up their slumbering offense.
Well, anything's a help here. The Mets have been decimated by injuries from their everyday players. D'Arnaud out, of course, David Wright. So Murph back. They send Herrera down. He's going to play third base. When he got hurt, which means nothing now, he was red hot, if you recall. So it was a real unfortunate injury. But it's like starting from scratch. He wore out down an A-ball. You expect that from a major leaguer that has Daniel's hitting capabilities. But he's definitely welcome in the lineup. And surprisingly, Gary hitting fourth.
And it comes at a good time for the Mets because the schedule as we head into July is going to get a lot tougher. They've got the Dodgers and Giants on the next road trip. They've got the Cardinals and Nationals right after the All-Star break, and it all starts tonight.
Well, the Cubs are on the rise. Theo Epstein came over more than a few years ago from the Red Sox. This is all starting to happen now, all the young players. What do I like about this club? Number one, I love their manager. I thought it was a great move. He's got gravitas to get these kids' attention. But the infield is no one's under 25 and younger. You've got Rizzo and Castro at 25, Addison Russell and Chris Bryant, rookies at 23 and 21, and then you throw in Jorge Soler in right field, who's hurt right now. He's 23 years of age. The Cubs have been getting good pitching, a really fine bullpen. This is a team that's on the rise and a team that the Mets are going to have to reckon with.
Mets saw the Cubs at Wrigley Field in May and got swept 4 games, losing 3 of the 4 by a single run. John Neese pitched one of those games for the Mets in that series, got some poor defense behind him, but he's been pitching much better of late.
Well, the last 4 starts, John has pitched extremely well, and he's only got an 0-2 record to show for it with 2 no decisions, because of the Mets' hitting woes. So he's trying to get it back on beam here. He's 3-5 career against these Cubs.
Meanwhile, the second-year right-hander for the Cubs, Kyle Hendricks, the Dartmouth grad, not quite as effective his second year as he was his rookie season.
Well, he burst on the second half of the season for the Cubs with a 7-2 record in 13 starts, I believe. He's 1-0 against the Mets, beat them last year in a good start. He has been struggling this year, can't seem to get out of the 5th inning.
So on the final day of June, it's the Mets and Cubs from Citi Field. All the action coming your way tonight right here on SNY. LTE network, only from Verizon. Get to Citi Field Friday, July 10th. The Mets take on the Diamondbacks at 7:10, and all fans in attendance will receive a Mets emoji T-shirt. That's right, emojis. And a gift card courtesy of Dunkin' Donuts. For tickets, visit Mets.com/free-shirt-Fridays. Time for the Coldwell Banker home field advantage, and the Mets have been great at home this year. 29-11, second best winning percentage at home in the major leagues this season. The road, well, we'll talk about that some other time. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. John Neese getting set to make the start for the Mets tonight. Looking for his first win since May the 9th. His first pitch is coming right up. Facing the Cubs for the second time this year. Dexter Fowler getting set to lead things off for the Cubbies in for their only visit at Citi Field this year. And here is the Cubs starting lineup. Brought to you by Hyundai. Anthony Rizzo, their best hitter, hitting the 2-hole. Chris Bryant has cooled down after his very fast start, striking out in droves. He's hitting third. Starlin Castro has struggled. The Cubs, as a matter of fact, are in about as desperate offensive straits as the Mets. They've scored just 7 runs in their last 6 games.
Well, a lot of that had to do with they got swept in St. Louis the series prior to this in their beginning of their road trip. And there's John Neese. His Jeep numbers for John. Always John giving up more hits than innings pitched. Walks. He's become more of a control pitcher. But the batting average too high. 9 home runs he's given up to right-hand hitters, but only 1 to lefties.
And you saw that very high whip over 1.5. Anything over 1.3 is a little bit too high. And Neese, who has been pitching better of late, 3.46 ERA over the last 4 starts, faces Dexter Fowler to lead things off. Fowler, a switch hitter, better right-hand batter. Neese's first pitch of the night is a fastball in for a strike, and we're underway.
Fowler having a sluggish year, 237 coming in. Is a lifetime 271 hitter coming into this season.
And as a leadoff hitter, his on-base percentage this year only .312, lifetime .361. Now in his 8th big league season.
Well, that's what happens when you're hitting 237. It's a little bit difficult. He's never been a big walker. He's walked 68 times twice. He's usually in the 60s.
Hitting for more power this year. He's already got 8 home runs. Maybe that has something to do with the lower batting average. 2-2 now to Fowler, with Anthony Rizzo looming on deck. The Cubs at 39-35. As Keith noted, they've lost 5 straight games, but those 5 straight were the last 2 of their series with the Dodgers, and then 3 in a row against St. Louis. And Fowler strikes out on the foul tip. Good cutter by Neese to get him for the first out of the night.
Like a straight fastball down and in. And we'll take a look at your Metropolitan Lexus defense. Well, that's the big trio out there. Red Hot Granderson. He's been sizzling. And look who's at second base. Wilmer Flores. Ruben goes to shortstop. All in the return of Murphy at third. Plawecki behind the plate. There's Wilmer. There's Daniel.
That stealthily made the switch at second and short on Sunday, and Steven Matz's start. It kind of got lost in all the hubbub about Matz, and rightfully so. Rizzo having a great year, hitting .304, 15 homers, 44 driven in.
And you see the defense pretty much interesting. Straight up on the right side of the infield, but dead pull on the left side of the infield.
Rizzo's had an interesting year against lefties. He's hitting .364 against lefties, but only 1 of his 15 home runs has come against the left-hand pitcher.
He's been hit 15 times this season.
It's close to a modern Cubs record. And he dribbles one out for Plawecki to get it. And plenty of time to get him. 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on.
Gets fooled on look how on top of the plate he is. Wow, deep in the box and on top of the plate. Nice footwork by Lucas here. Not a way to shift over on that throw outside the line.
Rizzo saw Duda shifting his feet, and he covered his head, thinking the ball was heading right toward the back of his noggin. So here's the rookie Chris Bryant, who exploded on the scene after the Cubs held him out of the first 2 weeks of the season. Had a great series against the Mets in Chicago, but he's cooled down significantly over the last 10 games, just 5 for 34.
And he was 2 for 11 in that 3-game series in St. Louis where they got swept.
It's 1 out to left. Easy for Cuddyer, and John Neese with an easy 1-2-3 inning through just 11 pitches to get the side in order. Right-hander Kyle Hendricks. Here is the Mets starting lineup. Juan Lagares is going to hit ninth tonight. Daniel Murphy comes back in the lineup and goes right into the cleanup spot behind Lucas Duda. Hoping to get Duda some better pitches to hit. Mets exploded for 7 runs in their game Sunday, but 4 of them were driven in by the pitcher, as you recall.
I do. What a performance.
And Kyle Hendricks' first fastball is in for a strike to Granderson. Curtis over the last 8 games hitting .452 with a .553 on base percentage and 5 home runs in the 8 games. And he takes the sinker just off the plate, 1-1. Granderson, Tejada, and Duda for the Mets in the opening inning. Good changeup by Hendricks, 1-2.
So Hendricks is not a hard thrower, as Gary said, a sinker ball pitcher, changeup. So when you have these guys that are sinker ball pitchers, what's the one thing as a hitter you want to do? You want to make them get the ball up. Don't swing at the sinker that's out of the strike zone. Make him alter his line of vision and to get a strike, and he might get it up and make a mistake.
Keith, it certainly feels as though Granderson's hot streak coincided with him looking to pull the ball more.
Oh, there's a good pitch right there. There's that movement that starts inside off the plate, and then it kind of moves back and freezes the hitter. We'll take a quick look at the defense, Gary, then we'll tackle that question you just asked. Brought to you by Coors Light. Matt at Caesar out in left field. Just thought I'd throw that in there. What a spelling. You wouldn't know. And there's the big young infield. Rizzo, Starling, Russell, and Bryant. Boy, that's a future right there for the Cubs. The veteran David Ross behind the plate.
Ruben Tejada takes a strike. So you were saying about Granderson.
He has been pulling more, and he seems more comfortable. And remember, spring training was a whole different philosophy. Was to get Curtis to go to the opposite field, use the left center field gap more. Well, I guess they went to plan B. I mean, Curtis became a pull hitter when he came over to the Yankees with that short right field porch. Who wouldn't? But he's red hot right now, and Curtis has always been streaky. I was kind of entertaining the idea, Gary. You and I kind of were texting over the off day yesterday about maybe stacking the top of the order. There's Mike Bex.
Carried out the lineup card for Joe Madden tonight as Tejada goes down on strikes. A back-to-back strikeouts for Hendricks to start the night.
Good slider.
So 2 out and nobody on. Lucas Duda coming up, and we check in with Steve Gelb. Steve.
Gary, Terry Collins said before the game he hoped Lucas Duda would see some better pitches now with Daniel Murphy batting behind him, but it may be just as much about the mental side of it than anything else. Kevin Long said that he sensed not just with Duda but with Michael Kadire today an entirely different demeanor now that they have Daniel Murphy back in this lineup. Said he felt like the guys looked like they were able to take a breath, a sigh of relief, because he thinks part of their struggles has been that they've been trying to carry this team on their back while he's been out.
Well, Duda certainly has been chasing the off-speed pitches out of the strike zone, and that's been part of his down.
Yes, it certainly has, and hasn't made the adjustment. And you know what? They're just going to keep feeding it to him. And this is a pitcher that's going to be challenging for Lucas because he's got a good off-speed pitch. Control pitcher. Going to try to get him to fish out of the strike zone.
Behind him 3-0, and he throws a strike. Last summer when the Mets faced Hendricks here at Citi Field, Hendricks held the Mets to 1 run over 7 innings. The 1 run was a Lucas Duda home run. But Lucas has only hit 1 home run in the month of June after hitting 7 in May. This is the final day of June. And he cracks one over the shift and into right field, a base hit. So Lucas gets a positive count and takes advantage of it for the first base runner of the night.
It's good sinker. See, Lucas is so pull right now. He's just pull. That's a sinker down and away. I know he's on top of the plate, and that's fine. But that's been part of his problem. He's been out in front a little bit too much. Doesn't take much.
So Duda's on first, and here's Daniel Murphy. His first at bat since June the 4th in Arizona. Tweaked his quad, missed 22 games, and now back tonight.
I loved it when they said he was going to be hopefully a couple weeks. You got muscle pulls. It's 3 weeks. Legs. It's the quad. I pulled my quad, and it takes some time, just like your hamstring.
Line to center, but Fowler's right there to grab it. So Murph hits it hard his first time up, but into an out. No score after 1. One app for live baseball. At bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at bat for your smartphone or tablet. Starlin Castro will lead off for the Cubs in the second inning. Castro not having a particularly good year, hitting just .260, on base percentage just .292, and just 12 extra base hits. Yet batting cleanup in Joe Maddon's batting order.
6th season with the Cubs, 25 years of age. He's fast approaching 1,000 hits.
Most hits in the National League since his debut. Pulls one over the bag and just foul. Base umpire Corey Blazer waited a beat before making the call.
He started the season with 846 hits. Only one Cub had more hits in his first 5 seasons than Starlin Castro, and that was the second baseman Glenn Beckert.
Well, he's a 3-time All-Star, but he's a guy that it's pretty clear the Cubs would like to trade. They've got the guy they may consider their shortstop of the future, Addison Russell, playing second base. They've got Javier Baez in the minor leagues, who has played shortstop during his tenure in professional baseball. They brought him up as a second baseman last year.
Well, Castro has lapses of concentration in the field. He doesn't walk. Only 11 walks, Garrett, so far this season. And that's why he's got all the hits. There's a walk. How about that?
So John Neese walks the leadoff hitter to start the second, a guy who has no interest in walking. And the Connecticut native Chris Denorfia will come to bat. Denorfia has already been on the disabled list twice this year, but he's right now platooning in right field in the absence of Jorge Soler, who's been out with an ankle injury and has just started his rehab assignment. Soler, another one of the young stars for the Cubs, whom we saw in Chicago in May.
Well, it's been nice to see these teams revamping. I think the Cubs, Gary, finally have an ownership that wants to win. You know, the Cubs always do well attendance wise. They're a moneymaker organizationally, and they got I think their ownership is committed to win. Well,
the Cardinals are the best team in baseball right now, so the Cubs might have already resigned themselves to playing for the wild card, which they're only a game and a half behind. They've lost 5 games in a row after getting to 9 games over 500, their high water mark. Little tapper, that's going to be a tough play if it stays fair. Nice will let it roll, and it finally goes foul.
Oh boy, that was a break. There's the lip of that grass. If it hits that lip, it usually gets enough momentum kick from that to go foul.
So Denorfia will come back.
Well, they just came from St. Louis, Gary. They got swept, and Pirates went in there, what, around a week ago, and they got swept. So the Cardinals are certainly the cream of the crop in the National League, if not Major League Baseball.
Well, they've got 6 more wins than any team in the major leagues right now. The Cardinals do. 51-24.
They have not skipped a beat. Lost Wainwright. Lost their big first baseman, Adams. They keep plugging.
Well, their pitching has been superb, even without Wainwright. Matt Caesar waiting on deck. So the Cubs have tried their best to keep up. That's Polk's foul. But the fascinating thing, of course, when these two teams get together, one, the Mets and Cubs might be in the same boat when you get down toward the end of the season. They might both be fighting for a wild card. And two, they are such mirror images of each other. The Mets with all their great young pitching, and the Cubs with all their great young position players. And it's led to a lot of conversation about whether there might be a deal at some point between the two. Good change up by Nice to strike out Denorfia, his second strikeout.
Good sinking change. And the Cubs and Mets will always be linked, of course, with that 69 season, with the big fold by the Cubs and the big rush by the 69 Metsies. The Black Cat, the whole 9 yards.
Here's Matt Caesar from Cape May, New Jersey, which is as far south in New Jersey as you can go.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Right at the bottom of the shore, and it drills one into left for a base hit. Castro will pull in at second. So there's the first Cubs hit. Caesar with a 1-out single.
Fastball, wanted it away, got it too much to the plate end.
So 2 on and 1 out for the 38-year-old catcher David Ross, getting the start against the left-hander. In fact, Joe Maddon squeezed every right-handed bat he could into the lineup today against Nice. Now the Cubs, like the Mets, are hitting their pitcher 8th. So here's Ross, the 7-hitter, with the pitcher Hendricks on deck. It really affects the nature of these innings, and it happens a lot in second innings of games. Teams get a couple of men on that pitcher hitting 8th really comes into play.
Nice needs a ground ball here. Ross not a fast runner by any stretch of the imagination, and the defense pretty much straight up on the infield, slight pull in the outfield. It's got power.
He lifts one to right center, pretty well hit. Back in the gap goes Lagares with Granderson, and Granderson runs it down. Both runners tag, and both will move up a base. But Ross giving it a good ride to the opposite field, and Granderson able to catch it on the warning track for the second out.
Well, wind blowing out in Wrigley, that's long gone. Granderson runs a long way for this because Lagares is not going to get there. Good read by the lead runner. He's halfway. Okay, he's going to catch it. I'm going to get back. The back runner, I got to take a look here. Yep, everybody did everything right. And this is Caesar taking advantage of Granderson's arm.
So now Nice, instead of facing a number 8 hitter and maybe having to walk him or work around him, goes right after the pitcher Hendricks, who's 2 for 27 this year, 5 for 51 in his career. 2 in scoring position with 2 down. And Nice quickly gets ahead 0-2. You know, the advantage of hitting the pitcher 8th is having that extra leadoff guy, the 9 guy in front of the 1 guy. It gives more opportunities to the people up in the batting order. This is the downside.
It's a mixed bag. I'd like to know how many times it backfires as opposed to helping you out. I mean, I don't care one way or the other. It's just how the dice roll, how they fall. For the Cubs right now, they roll snake eyes.
wouldn't bite at the curveball, and Plawecki knocks it down. 1-2.
Plawecki's done a nice job. He's gotten a lot more playing time than he bargained for. I'm sure he's very pleased about that. He has struggled at the plate. He's getting a lot of breaking stuff, but you know what? He hasn't affected his defense. He's been solid back there. He's blocked balls well.
On the outside corner, Nice gets Hendricks looking and gets out of trouble following the leadoff walk in the second. To the bottom of the second, no score.
A beautiful stadium. Which one-time Met player was the first player to represent 5 different teams at the All-Star game?
That's a great question. It's Michael Cuddyer leading off, and he takes a strike. My first guess, and I'd have to think about it a little more, so don't hold me to this. The first guy who comes to mind is Gary Sheffield.
Good one.
Right?
Yeah.
Marlins, Padres, Braves. I mean, he's played for so many different teams.
He didn't get there on the Brew Crew, right? He was young.
Might have.
Might? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one possibility. I think there's anybody else that it could have been. Todd Seal played for a lot of teams, but I don't think he made the All-Star team for 5 teams.
No. I don't think he made the All-Star game 5 times.
Bounced down to third. It comes up for Bryant. And he makes the overhand throw in time to get Cuddyer for the first down.
Very nice play by the youngster.
I think I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go with Sheffield as my guess.
He wants to come in for the short hop and realizes he can't get it. And look what he got, the in-between hop, but he kept his body in front. And really, there you go. 2 hands. Thank you. Love it. Well done.
With Wilmer Flores hitting 6th in the order. Wilmer's batting average down to .238 for the year. And he takes a strike from Kyle Hendricks.
You know what's kind of funny is infielders and even outfielders, when you get the ground ball and you want to throw at the 4 seams.
Right.
And I can tell you that it was never a thought in my mind as when I caught a ground ball and I had to throw a double play ball. I had to throw at second base. It never even crossed my mind in the middle of the play how to grip the ball coming out of my hand. I think it was just instinctively done. And we'll see Brian right there. He's got the four seams. Oh, there you go. So he's throwing with the four seams. You saw him make the turn. So these are things that you've done your whole life and really don't even. It doesn't even factor in. It's an automatic. You follow me, Gary?
Sure, except there must be some plays where you simply don't have the time to make that turn. As Flores drives one out to right center, but Denorfia playing over that way and able to make the grab for the second out.
I have a hard time answering the question, but this is the four seams when you want to throw. So you got the ball turns. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't want to do this. The ball could sail. But I can tell you, Gary, I've had hard hit balls at me in my career, and I've had no time but to get the ball and throw a quick play. I don't know how I did it. The thought never crossed my mind how I held the ball.
10 years in this booth, and it's the first time that Keith has ever had the ball in his hand. It's always Ronnie with the baseball. I know you were a high school pitching star. That's a big curveball.
This is my Bartolo Colon imitation here.
You need the gum to go with the ball tossing. 1-on-1 to Plawecki.
It's nice to have a ball in your hand. You know, that's the bat. I haven't had a bat in my hand in a long time, but I always put the ball in my hand. It always feels good. It just always feels like it belongs there.
It's just the right size, isn't it?
It's perfect.
The softball's too big.
Yep.
The baseball is just the right size.
Remember the old semis when you were a kid? Semi balls that had that trick second hop. They were like rubber balls. They were a little bit smaller. They were for kids. And my dad used to use them when we were younger to work on pickups because they wouldn't hurt your face if you got a bad hop. Teach me to be my brother and I to be fearless.
Line into right center, and Plawecki's got a base hit. Denorfia over to cut it off and holds him to a 2-out single.
Well, Plawecki goes the other way well. When he gets in trouble, like any hitter, it's a cutter. That's where you hit it. There's not much you can do with that unless you're standing on top of the plate. If you want to pull, you're playing into the pitcher's hands. He goes that way naturally. That's why I think he's got a chance to be a very good, decent hitter. He gets in trouble. He tries to pull too much. He wants to pull the breaking ball.
Well, John Neese and the other Met pitchers have a very tough act to follow after Stephen Matz's heroics on Sunday afternoon. In fact, the Met pitching staff has been hitting much better this year, but Matz trumped them all with his 3-for-3, 4 RBI performance.
Historic debut.
Johnny
Offensively.
Johnny Manel making sure he stays very close to Matz. He caught him on Sunday, and he'd like to get just as hot as Stephen is.
I thought you and Ronnie made a wonderful analogy comparison when I watched the game, and you compared him to the similarities to John Matlack, and I couldn't agree more.
Both lefties were in number 32 with the high leg kick. Neese grounds out after 2. No score at Citi Field. and the uncompromised Audi A3 sedan. It's Addison Russell's picture on the auxiliary scoreboard, and there's Mr. Russell at home plate taking outside for ball one. Russell hitting ninth in the order. Rookie second baseman hitting .243, just 21 years old. Nubbed off the end of the bat. Neese with a nice stop, and from a knee throws him out. Net pitchers as a group do a terrific job fielding their position.
Well, they're athletes. They're agile. Nice play, John. Nice backhand. And you're left-handed, made it easier for him to throw to first base. Heck of a play.
So Addison Russell is retired. By the way, noting Russell being 21 and playing second base every day for the Cubs, we should note that the Mets' 21-year-old second baseman Dilson Herrera got sent down to make room for Daniel Murphy.
Well, he had every opportunity when he got hurt and came back. Just didn't hit, and I still think he's got a chance to be a good player. 21 years of age, got a little overwhelmed. We started pulling too much, but boy, can he turn a double play. Got a good glove, and I think he'll be back. I'm not quitting on that young man.
Dexter Fowler struck out his first time up. I would imagine the plan now at Vegas would be to play Herrera at second and Reynolds at short every day.
Of course.
And keep them ready for a possible call. It might be Reynolds or it might be somebody else. But at some point this season, the next player that the Mets bring in who has never played for the Mets before will be the 1,000th player in Mets history. Steven Matz was number 999 on Sunday. Yeah.
How about that?
It's a bit of an historic milestone in year 54 of the franchise. And curveball, he laid off, and it's 1-2 to Fowler. So who knows who it might be? It might be somebody in the organization now. It might be somebody they trade for. But Mr. 1000 is on the horizon.
Have the planes been taken off overhead a little closer than usual lately?
We had some over the weekend.
Yeah, I know. I heard it. I was watching, and by the way, thank you, Ronnie, for picking me up.
You know, it didn't go unnoticed that Saturday game that got suspended. You did 6 innings of the game on Saturday, and Ronnie did 7 innings in the game in relief on Sunday. You know, I don't know how you guys get paid, but I'm just saying.
Well, Ronnie's got to file a complaint.
Or.
But anyway, Ron, thank you for doing that, picking me up. It was I asked Ron if he would, and he certainly never hesitated. But I tell you what, Ron, I got you a nice bottle of a Chassagne Montrachet for you and your lovely bride. I'm going to bring it to the ballpark for you as a token of my appreciation for picking up those 7 innings. It's a delicious wine. You'll love it.
I mean, it easily could have been 2.5 innings.
I knew that game was going to go forever. How bad were the Reds? I mean, their act is tired.
Lined and just over the glove of Flores, a base hit for Fowler. So that was quieting it back for Dexter Fowler. Fell in an 0-2 hole, fouled off a couple, worked it to 3-2, and picks up a base hit.
Well, Flores gets up, all of them, and just enough. The ball was ripped, by the way. Good leaping ability there.
Fowler has been so much better right-handed than left. 349 right-handed, 217 left-handed coming into the day. Now it's Rizzo, and he takes a knee-high strike.
As Gary said, 364 against left-handers, Rizzo, but only 1 home run of his 15. But you hitting 364? What the heck? Right on top of the plate, deep in the box. It's the one thing I noticed about him.
Well, coming into the day, against left-handers, Anthony Rizzo has the best on-base percentage in the National League. Interesting that the top 2 guys on that list and 3 of the 5 are all left-hand hitters. presented by DraftKings. Play Deadly Fantasy Baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Enter promo code NYM for free entry.
Well, that means you're walking a lot. A lot of left-handers, when you stand on top of the plate, have a very hard time throwing an inside strike. And I hit close to the plate against left-handers like that. I always felt it was intimidating to the pitcher to have to throw an inside strike. And boy, if they get it out on the outside corner here, when you stand that close, the outside corner is right where the meat of your bat is, your sweet spot. So they can paint you a breaking ball or a fastball on the outside corner, and they're throwing right into your strength if you stay in.
0-2 to Rizzo with Fowler, who can steal a base on first base. And Rizzo pops one up. Murphy back. Didn't make the call, and the catch. Caught it in foul territory for the second out. Murphy just looks so much more comfortable playing third base than he does playing second.
He certainly does. And if there wasn't a David Wright, I'm sure Murph would have been the third baseman for the Mets for most of his career.
Very interesting you say that, because that's exactly what Terry Collins said today. He said he said it to Murphy at one point in recent days that, circumstances were different and David wasn't a Met. That's where you would have been. Here's Chris Bryant, and at this point nobody knows when David Wright will be back, so it makes the most sense for the Mets to put together their best configuration for the moment, and that's what they've done.
Well, you got to figure one thing with David is that he's still in Los Angeles getting therapy. He's going to have to get himself back in shape. I mean, if you've got a back that's irritating you, it's hard to keep your stamina, your strength in your lower half. Plus, he's going to have to go get some rehab at bats.
Bryant hooks one into left field for a base hit. Fowler takes a wide turn, but he's not going anywhere past second base. So 2 men on, and Starlin Castro coming up. Now, I think it makes the most sense for the Mets at this point to treat David as though he's not coming back at all. And if he does, that's a terrific bonus. And they can figure that out when the time comes. But this idea that he's coming back at the All-Star break is absurd.
It's not happening.
Starlin Castro drew a walk his first time up, only his third walk in the month of June. Fowler at second, Bryant at first, 2 out. And the first pitch curveball stays up and away. Well, we talked about it earlier. The Cubs have had as difficult a time lately scoring runs as the Mets have. 7 runs in their last 6 games. And they just couldn't buy a hit with a runner in scoring position in the series against the Cardinals. And he's behind on Castro at 2-0.
Wow, what a result.
It's Manny Ramirez.
It is it not?
It is. He is he's not an official coach with the Cubs, but he does work for the organization. And here visiting today. In fact, his son is serving as the Cubs bat boy today. It goes against everything that you would have thought, as Castro somehow draws another walk.
Wow.
So East walks Castro for the second time, and this time on 4 pitches, and that loads him up for Denorfield. But the Cubs people rave about the ability that Manny has to relate baseball experience and some of the mental skills of the game to today's players.
Well, he had a great career. It just reminds me how how quick your career is over. I mean, you think you can play forever. I feel like you watched him having those great seasons with the Red Sox. Now he's a coach.
But nobody ever thought that Manny Ramirez was a particularly cerebral player, but it may turn out he had us all fooled. Well, here's Denorfield, a big spot for Neese in the 3rd inning of this game. Bases loaded, 2 out, and a knee-high fastball for a strike. Denorfield struck out his first time out. Excellent speed on the bases all the way around for the Cubs. The Ball and a strike to Denorfia.
Well, there's John. We're going to little slight step back, turns that leg a foot on the rubber. Big stride, but doesn't really push off. He's not a drop and drive guy. We'll see less and less of that today.
Two one coming, and Denorfia lifts it to center. Back goes Flores, called off by Lagares. Side retired, and he strands 3 in the top of the third. Keeps it a scoreless game at Citi Field. Game. Mets will have their number 9 hitter, which today is Juan Lagares, leading off against Hendricks. Lagares in a 2 for 29 skid right now. Granderson and Tejada to follow in the third. Hendricks throws a sinker for a strike.
Been under a lot of pitches, fouling them back or swinging and missing, but under. Focus on the top half, hit line drives.
Nubs one foul, and it's 0-2. Hendricks, who had a terrific second half of the season last year after he was called up. 13 starts, win 7-2, 2.46, and finished 7th in the Rookie of the Year balloting. This has been a much tougher year for him. His home run rate is up. His hits per innings pitched rate is up. Doesn't walk many batters, just 15 walks in 80 innings. Easy play for the second baseman Russell, and he throws out Lagares one away. Let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve.
So the Cubs come to down losers of 5 straight, and Joe Maddon, he wanted to change up the vibes of the clubhouse a little bit. Wanted his young team not to get too down on themselves, considering 3 of those losses came against the best team in baseball in the St. Louis Cardinals. So Maddon, ever the innovator, decides to hire a magician and bring him into the clubhouse before the game today. By all accounts, this magician blew the guys' minds. The best trick I heard, he had Anthony Rizzo write down on a piece of paper a celebrity, living or dead. Rizzo wrote down John Travolta. This magician went over to the computer, typed into Google, what is Anthony Rizzo thinking right now? Pictures of John Travolta show up on the computer screen.
It's pretty good.
Were they in cahoots?
I don't know. Now, you know, Joe Madden is one of those guys who loves to find different ways to keep his team loose. And he said that he considered having a 20-foot python in the clubhouse. But he said when you're on the road, it's a lot easier to find a magician than a python.
Yes, I would think so.
I mean, almost like he knew that ahead of time. Like he tried it before. Well, he was perhaps the most important acquisition for the Cubs in the offseason.
He was with Terry Collins with the Angels.
He replaced Terry.
Yes.
With the Angels. Grounded over the first base bag, and Rizzo makes the play on Granderson, and they're 2 out. So Hendricks, the ground ball pitcher, starting to get the ground balls. He's gotten 2 of them to start the 3rd inning.
Well, as advertised, 2 teams struggling offensively. The only difference is the Mets are on a 4-game winning streak. Cubs are on a 5-game losing streak.
Well, the Mets have had remarkable pitching, and you know they lost 7 in a row before they won 4 in a row, and there were 2 or 3 games in there. If they played a little better defense, they would have won even with the lack of offense. Their pitching has been so good. Tejada struck out his first time up. Jacob deGrom will get the start of the final game of this series on Thursday. He'll be matched up against Jake Arrieta, who's been terrific for the Cubs. Tejada, when he first started playing every day again, was really tearing it up, but he has cooled down significantly. Just 2 for his last 26. And of course, that's the downside of making the decision to play Ruben every day at shortstop and move Flores over to second, is that you just don't know how much offense you get out of Tejada if he plays every day.
I'm almost tempted, if you're going to hit the pitcher in the 8th hole, monkeying around. You and I were talking about it yesterday. I was texting. Putting Flores in the 2 hole, moving Ruben down.
Foul tip held by Ross, and Hendricks strikes out Tejada for the 2nd time. We played 3 at Citi Field. Mets and Cubs, no score.
Met player was the first to represent 5 different teams at an All-Star game.
I guess Gary Sheffield.
You got it. And the Brewers were not one of them. We forgot about the Yankees, didn't we?
Yankees, that's right. Padres, Dodgers, Marlins, Braves, not Mets.
He got his big big career home run here.
Number 500 as a Met.
Yep.
Matt Caesar singled to left his first time up. And he lifts this one to right, easy for Granderson. And Curtis puts it away, 1 out. So that's the first question that I've been asked to answer tonight. There will be more later tonight. You know, we have the premiere of our Beat the Booth show, me and Howie against the Bands tonight after the postgame show.
I'm going to have to watch that. Let me see. I've got tomorrow's game, and then I'm not going on the West Coast with you guys. Ronnie has it. So I'll pick up the reruns.
I just want to make sure that you were not offended in any way.
By?
Well, you know, I've had to answer some questions about this Beat the Booth show coming up tonight. They kind of put together the dream team of me and Howie, because Howie knows everything about the Mets.
Right.
And, you know, last year we had the TV guys against the radio guys.
Right.
And I said that it would be easier for me this year because I didn't have to carry anybody.
Gary, please. I got other things to worry about. My shoulder's killing me.
That's the least of because I whacked you on the shoulder.
No, it's okay.
Tonight.
You did whack me on my shoulder. It's actually getting better.
You've taken the next step in your.
I started my rehab. My first PT session was a couple days. Not yesterday. Yeah, Monday. So it's going to be 6 months. It's just a slow heal. So it is what it is. But it was killing me without it. Before surgery, I just couldn't have gone on. I could have, but.
Grounded slowly. Murphy with a tough chance against the slow-footed Ross, able to throw him out. Nicely done by Murphy. 2 away.
Well, playing deep, but makes a very good charge on the ball and on the run throw. Nothing wrong with that. Very nice play.
Just want to finish that thought about the game show last year.
Yes.
You were of much greater value to our team
late
in that game show format than I would have ever been to you down there. So, you know, we all have our strengths.
That's right. And really, you know, Ronnie was so quick in the middle that he was answering those. He had a run there where he was like a machine.
Well, Howie and I went up against some very tough competition. It'll be worth watching. It got a little dicey. Line to right, and Granderson had him play perfectly with the pitcher batting. Hendricks is retired, and Nice has a 1-2-3 top of the 4th. Still no score. Interactive with SNY Game Day on SNY.TV, featuring pitch-by-pitch coverage, player cards, and in-depth stats. Check out SNY Game Day on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Lucas Duda leads off the home fourth inning against Kyle Hendricks and takes outside for ball one. Lucas singled into right field with 2 out in the first. And the Cubs put the familiar shift on against Lucas, with Bryant, the third baseman, playing out in shallow right field.
Good pitch to hit. Lucas has been ahead in the count. Got a 3-1 base hit his first time up. Now he's 2-0.
Fouls it away. Murphy on deck, then Kadire for the Mets in the fourth against Kyle Hendricks, who, like Lucas Duda, grew up in Southern California. Unlike Lucas, who went to college at USC, Hendricks went across the country to play baseball and study at Dartmouth. Drafted in the 8th round by Texas in 2011 after his junior season. Duda takes one the other way, getting turned around is Caesar, but he finds it and makes the catch. That's a nice recovery by Caesar, who nearly got twisted in a knot chasing that drive.
Well, usually the ball from the left-hander's bat, the opposite field is going to fade toward the line. He had it all the way. Nice glove. Great shot.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Murphy, who lined out to center field in his first at bat back from the disabled list. And he lifts this one to center, hit pretty well, but Fowler going back a long way back, and it's over his head and off the base of the wall. And Murphy pulls into second base with a double. That ball just kept on carrying off the bat of Daniel Murphy for his 15th double of the year.
Well, it's a good matchup. Oh, this is right down the pipe. So Murph's hit 2 balls extremely hard here. Notice Murph, he pulled up, no intention of trying to get 3 out of this. Take it easy on that quad that he pulled. It's an automatic double. Need to keep Murph healthy. You can see him right here. You've got to hustle here, but once he sees it drop, that's the proper thing to do. You're not going to get 3.
So the Mets have a runner in scoring position for the first time tonight. And now Michael Kadire, who grounded out to third base his first time up. Each team now with 3 hits.
Well, Kadire has just been really struggling. I almost see too much top hand in his swing coming over the ball, especially the low pitch, and he's been pulling too much, which is not his game. It's all part of pressing. Even the veterans do.
He just has never had a hot streak this year.
No, he has not. And really, Lucas Duda hasn't had a hot streak. It's been Murph had a hot streak before he got hurt, and Granderson right now. Everybody else just starts and stops.
There's a strike, 2-1.
Well, take a look at this, folks. I hope he has his ankle taped. Oh, jeez.
A lot of torque on that right ankle,
I'll say.
Dyer chasing the breaking ball, and it's 2-2.
He's just been too quick, and watch him just pull off and chase. Just had a real tough time of it.
Those were his career numbers. This year, with runners in scoring position, Michael Kadire is hitting 200. And Ross needs a conversation. We were talking about Hendricks and the fact that he was drafted by Texas. He came over to the Cubs in a deal for Ryan Dempster at the trading deadline in 2012. But, he was a couple of semesters short of his degree at Dartmouth, so he went back the last few winters and he got his degree in economics last winter was the first time he had ever not had to go to school during the offseason. So he was able to concentrate more on his craft. And Cuddyer is caught looking at a fastball from Hendricks for his 4th strikeout.
Well, it's an inside corner sinker, and he's chased the ball away. And it's a good pitch by a pitcher when you got 2 strikes. You're most vulnerable in, and you can see now that Cuddyer's caught in between. Pretty good pitch.
So 2 out. Murphy at second, and now here's Wilmer Flores, who flied out to right his first time. These are 2 teams that are just trying to find their way out of the wilderness right now offensively. That's before their 7-run outburst in the second game Sunday. It scored 15 runs in a 10-game span. And Flores pops it up. That should be playable for Rizzo. And,
oh boy,
and he almost nonchalanted that a little too much.
Really?
He makes the catch. And Murphy is stranded at second. No score after 4.
Get under that ball. Challenge, a duo of Mets superfans and a fierce competition of Mets trivia. Will they have what it takes to beat the both? Presented by Citi tonight after post game only on SNY.
Talk about 2 faces for radio. Jeez. Thank you, Howard. Addison Russell leads off in the 5th inning and takes a curveball from John Neese for ball 1. Russell hit one to the right of the mound, and Neese made a nice sliding play to get him. Russell, then Fowler and Rizzo in the 5th inning. And Neese runs one inside, 2-0. Well, John has had to work out of a couple of messes in this game, most notably bases loaded in the 3rd, but he got through it on a Chris Denorfia fly ball. And now he's fallen behind the leadoff hitter in the 5th. Russell 3-0.
Well, the lineup of the Cubs really falls off a cliff. The second half of that lineup, starting with Caesar and then Ross, the pitcher, and Russell's hitting .243, but they got some bad batting averages down there.
It's a little better lineup when they have Jorge Soler healthy and when they have their #1 catcher Miguel Montero in the lineup.
Soler sprained his ankle, correct?
Ankle sprain. He's been out since June 1st and just started his rehab assignment yesterday. So they should have him back in a week or so. Hit hard. Murphy with the diving stop from his knee. He makes the play. Well, you knew Murph coming back into the lineup would give the offense an upgrade, but he's helped out the defense as well.
Well, nice play. It's a hot corner, purely reaction. And nice play, Daniel. And throwing from the knee with some mustard.
Well, so far tonight, he's gone back on a pop-up. He's come in on a slow grounder. Now the diving play to his left. He's done it all defensively. And throwing the double his last time up, so he has come back ready to roll.
Murph's always better at those bang-bang plays where it just a pure reaction. His pitcher loves that play. So, welcome back, Daniel.
Fowler hits one toward the middle. Flores on the backhand has time to set and throw perfectly for the second out. See, now we've seen Flores on the backhand at shortstop not able to make plays because he didn't have the time to, but at second base he does.
What's interesting, Gary, is that he's playing the other side of the infield. We noticed at shortstop he was better going to his right than his left. Well, on that play, now it's the reverse up the middle. You want to be strong up the middle defensively. Flores has much better range going to his right, which when he's at second base, it takes him to the middle.
Grounded foul outside first. Well, there is no question that this defensive infield makes total sense for the Mets in the absence of David Wright. The question is why it took them so long to get to this point. How many games they lost because they had the wrong defensive alignment.
Well, it was we're up here in the booth and we could see it, and in over a course of 162 games it's gonna bite you more than a few times.
Another chance for Flores, and he's starting to get on a roll. He's now retired 7 in a row. Halfway through, Mets and Cubs, no score. Not against the struggling John Lester after getting all that money in the offseason. Thursday afternoon, terrific matchup. Jacob deGrom against Jake Arrieta before the Mets head off to L.A. And I believe they faced Clayton Kershaw the first game of the series in Los Angeles Friday night.
Greinke the second game, I believe. So they got their up against it. No off day going out there.
Don't need one going west. You gain 3 hours.
I understand. But it's still nice to have one.
Here's Kevin Plawecki leading off in the home 5th inning. Plawecki has one of the Mets' 3 hits, a single to right center his first time up. Facing Kyle Hendricks, who his last 2 starts had an 0-2 record and a 9 ERA. Got lit up by the Dodgers his last time out. Couldn't get past the 5th inning.
Well, he's had 5 starts in a row where he's gone 5 innings. So, and the start before then he went 6. So it's been tough sledding for him.
The good news for the Cubs is that their bullpen, especially over the last 6 weeks, has been very, very good. And they've just got another piece back in their bullpen Sunday when Neil Ramirez came back from 2 months on the disabled list. He was important for them last year, but they've got a very deep and very effective bullpen. It's a strike 3-1 to Plawecki. John Neese is on deck hitting in the 8th hole, and then Juan Lagares here in the home 5th. They're the recent numbers for that Cubs bullpen. You see they have been very, very good. And that's on the corner 3-2. The former Cardinal closer Jason Mott has been especially effective and has even gotten some closing assignments. Hector Rondon is the nominal closer for Chicago. And Plawecki goes down on the changeup.
Wow.
And that's 5 strikeouts now for Kyle Hendricks.
Pretty tough pitch right here. Oh, it's a little cutter change. Had a run to it too, but took something off.
So 1 out now. Neese, who grounded out to third base his first time up.
Well, maybe Jonathan can make like Steven Matz. Here's the strikeout. It's got a little run to it. Boy, it took just enough off.
Well, Hendricks is a guy who's not going to throw hard, but he's a cerebral pitcher, as you'd expect from an Ivy Leaguer. By the way, the Cubs are the only team in the major leagues right now that has 2, with an asterisk, 2 Ivy Leaguers on their roster. There are only 8 in the major leagues right now. As Neese strikes out on 3 pitches. That's 6 now for Hendricks. Hendricks from Dartmouth, and Mike Baxter, who, even though he wound up at Vanderbilt, he spent a year at Columbia, so we claim him.
It counts.
We claim him as a
Dartmouth
nominal Ivy.
What is Dartmouth's nickname?
The Big Green?
Is that what it is? So what is their logo?
Well, they
got a big tree or something?
They were the Indians back in the day, but they changed that.
One of those. Okay. Happened to Stanford
and all those other schools did. Here's Lagares, who grounded out his first time up and takes a breaking ball for a strike. I mean, they could do like what Syracuse does with Otto the Orange and just have a big green blob as their mascot. There's been a lot of baseball talents come out of Dartmouth. Pete Broberg, Mike Remlinger, way back when Red Rolfe, for whom the field is named at Dartmouth. 1-2 to Lagares.
Pretty much straight up. Very shallow in the outfield. Sorry, Gary.
I was just going to say, during this 4-game winning streak, the Mets have taken to wearing this eye black at night. Guess it started with the day game in Milwaukee, which started this winning streak last Thursday. And so everybody's wearing the eye black.
Well, okay. Remember the one year where they all cut their hair? Remember they
shaved it.
Yeah.
Except for a couple. Hit out to right field, and Denorfia is there to grab it.
I would not have bought that. They would not have been able to cut my hair.
How about your mustache?
That would have been no. One dog wasn't going to hunt.
Chris Bryant leads off the 6th inning and takes ball 1 from John Neese. Bryant singled to left his last time up. Cubs loaded the bases in that 3rd inning, but Neese has retired 7 in a row since.
Here, you mentioned something that their father got a tip from Ted Williams and his approach to hitting.
Chris Bryant says his goal every night is to hit 4 fly balls. I've never heard anybody else say that, and he said he got that from his dad, who got it from Ted Williams.
I'm sure his dad did not misinterpret.
And Neese walks him on 4 pitches, 3rd walk of the night for John.
That is just so foreign to me. You know, he's got 87 strikeouts this year. He's a tremendous talent. This kid is just budding. And we're talking about Chris Bryant, who just walked. But I was always taught hit the top half of the ball, line drives. So, and you know, I was a 15 home run guy a year. I wasn't a 20. Never hit 20 home runs. Most I hit in one season was 18.
Castro fouls one off. Well, people are expecting Bryant to be a 40 home run guy. So in that context, does it make more sense that he's trying to hit fly balls?
I think that's the way he's been schooled. And what brought you to the dance? Don't change it. He's been doing it his whole life. He's been successful. So don't change a thing. I just wish I hadn't, you know, I mean, I loved playing in St. Louis, but I played 8.5 years at that big old park. It cost me probably around easily 5 home runs a year. Probably more.
Did you ever think to yourself, gosh, I wish I played for the Cubs and played at Wrigley Field 81 times a year?
But they were terrible.
To Castro, has walked his first 2 times up.
Well, the ball in Philadelphia, the old Veterans Stadium, carried, and 3 Rivers the ball carried.
Castro has to vacate.
San Diego, Jack Murphy was a big ballpark. Remember when it had the high wall before they put the wall in front that was normal height? You had to hit it over the concrete wall. It was around 25 feet.
Castro slugs one out to center, but easy for Lagares. And Neese has the first out in the 6th. Let's check in with the studio. Eamon McEnany has a game break brought to you by Honda. Shelby Miller had been almost untouchable in the first inning this year, and he gives up a 4 spot in the first inning tonight. That's how hot the Nats are right now. An 8-game winning streak snapped on Sunday. Here's Chris Denorfia with 1 out and 1 on.
Well, they're trying to do what the Nats are trying to do what they did last year. Remember when they caught fire in that second half and just blew everybody out of the gym?
Well, the Mets gave them the opening by losing 7 in a row, but the Mets have bounced back with 4 straight wins. And looking for 5 tonight in another tight duel. Bryant at first. He's got good speed. 6 stolen bases. Denorfia fouls one off his leg, and it's 0-2.
Well, the Cubs are going to trying to get to 500 on the road this season. They're 19-20 coming in. 5 over 500 at home. And I don't like the blue softball uniforms. I like the old grays with Chicago across the chest.
We'll make a note. Neese with the bare hand pickup, but he doesn't have the play at second and settles for the out at first. Well, he wanted to turn a double play, but the ball was just hit so slowly, and he wound up making the bare hand grab.
I wonder if he didn't have a good grip and didn't want to risk the throw. I don't know, but he certainly had him at second base.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Flores was there to cover, though, because he was moving toward the ball at first.
No one's there. Oh, Ruben's coming over. He's there. So it's took the safety out right there. Now he's got to get a big out here with Caesar.
Certainly took a risk picking that ball up barehanded, and Caesar drives one deep left field. Kadire back, it's over his head and off the base of the wall. That'll bring in the first run of the game. Bryant scores. Matt Caesar with an RBI double, and the Cubs grab a 1-0 lead in the 6th.
Well, not so sure that runner would have scored on that gapper if he had been at first. So that play right now is big. It's a hanging breaking. Yes, it is a hanging breaking ball. Tried to get on the outside corner, kind of came back too much of the plate, and that runner probably would have scored with that bad carom.
So Caesar drives in his 8th run of the year. The leadoff walk comes back to hurt Nice, and now they'll walk David Ross intentionally, go after the pitcher Hendricks, who's sitting in the 8 hole.
So this will be the 3rd at bat for Hendricks. It's backfired at 8th hole, the 8th position in the order is backfired 2 to 3 times. But still, it's a toss of the coin.
Well, you can look at it from that standpoint, or you can say, well, they had their 9-hitter lead off 2 innings, which is part of the goal. Here's that play again on the comeback.
Now Tejada's getting there, so you can, it's like a double play with it. You got to lead the runner to the back, throw it to the bag. You got him. But Nice opts for the safety first, and it hurts him. Gives up a double.
Of course, the other piece of that is being left-handed. He's not exactly pointed in the right direction as he feels that ball. He's got to do a full pivot.
He was ready to throw it.
Hendricks is struck out and lined out to right, 0 for 2. And as was the case his last time up, Granderson playing him shallow and toward the line, which is exactly where he hit it his last time up. Caesar at second, Ross at first with 2 out. A run home for the Cubs here in the 6th. Pokes one foul.
Here we are, Gary. We're almost out of June. Can you believe how fast it's gone? The first 3 months of this season. The weather is just spectacular. Not at all hot. I always remember in the 80s it was always hot in the summer, hot and humid.
Strike 3 called. Hendricks caught looking. But Nice gives up the first run of the night. Matt Caesar a 2-out double to put the Cubs up 1-0. Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Well, John Nice finally cracked in that 6th inning, a leadoff walk and a decision to get an out at first rather than at second costs him the first run of the game. Now the Mets will try to respond against Kyle Hendricks, third time through the batting order, with Curtis Granderson to lead off. Granderson has been the Mets' hottest hitter tonight. Has struck out and grounded out 0 for 2. And so Hendricks, who has really been struggling lately, has thrown 5 scoreless innings, given up just 3 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts for this sinker balling right-hander. Granderson takes a fastball for a strike. But as Keith mentioned earlier, Hendricks has trouble getting deep into games, and so the Cubs will have the bullpen ready here in the 6th. James Russell, the first man up. Ball and a strike to Granderson with Tejada on deck and Duda behind him. And Granderson flies one down the left field line. Caesar over near the sidewall, and he makes a nice catch. You run out of room so quickly once you cross the line there, and Caesar makes a nice grab.
A little bit dicey for the outfielders with that little narrow foul line there. It's much like Wrigley. Wrigley has hardly any territory down the right and left field lines, so they should be pretty familiar.
So 1 out of Ruben Tejada, who has been up twice and struck out both times. So we were talking earlier about you complaining about the number of home runs Busch Stadium took away from you, and I asked you, would you rather play at Wrigley? So Dave Fried, who you know is the king of numbers, did some math. All right, you hit 38 home runs in your career at Busch Stadium in 645 games. You hit 12 home runs at Wrigley Field in 112 games. You actually hit home runs at a higher rate at Busch than you did at Wrigley. In fact, had you played your career at Wrigley rather than Busch, as Tejada hits one out to center field, that's hit well. Fowler going a long way back. It's turned around and makes the basket catch with a little bit of bobble at the end.
Wow.
Well, Tejada, who hit one off the center field fence the other day, nearly got it out there again. Fowler did a couple of twists and 3 turns and managed to find the ball.
That's the best bolt again from Ruben. And nice recovery. The wrong way. Got to turn around. That is not an easy play. Oh, a snow cone. What flavor? Nice looking glove. Oh boy, it wasn't a snow cone. He just barely kept it in the glove. So you were corrected by Dave Fried, I think. So I only had 12 home runs in Wrigley, huh?
12 home runs.
The wind must have been blown in.
So my mistake. I said you had a higher home run rate at Wrigley than at Busch.
Right.
So you would have hit 24 more home runs had you played at Wrigley rather than at Busch. Would it have been worth it?
No, I love playing in St. Louis. Chicago, if I'd have played at Chicago, 81 home games, all day games back in those days, remember? Did it hit Duda? No, I don't think so. Well,
he thinks it did.
You want Lucas to swing the bat.
And Terry Collins wants his replay guys to let him know whether he should challenge this.
Get up there and hit.
Besides, no.
I want Lucas to swing the bat. I think it bounced over his foot. Well, it's hard to tell.
In this game, you have the 2 batters who've been hit more than any players in the National League, in Rizzo and Duda. Rizzo's been hit 15 times, Duda 10. And nobody else in the National League is in double figures. Murphy on deck. Hendricks behind 3-0. He hasn't walked a batter all night. And Hendricks need a conversation. Well, you got Murphy on deck, and Murphy, even though he's just back from the DL, has smoked it twice against Hendricks. A hard line drive for an out and a long double to left center. So you have to figure Duda's the guy who wants to go after in a 1-run game. But he throws him a 3-1 curveball, gets it over for a strike. One of the few curveballs he's thrown tonight. talking about Hendricks and his tendency to not go deep in games. Third time around the batting order against Hendricks. Teams hit .379 this year. He's gotten the first two on some nice outfield play. Now he's 3-2 on Duda. And he walked him. First walk of the night for Hendricks, and Murphy will get to the plate with the tying run at first.
Well, Murph's the one guy that's figured out Hendricks hit 2 bullets. This ball just missed.
Chris Bosio, the pitching coach, on his way out to talk to Hendricks, who's at 85 pitches for the night. Russell is ready. You got a left-hand hitter coming up in Murphy. But Bosio and not Joe Madden out to talk. So it looks like Hendricks will get another batter.
We'd be remiss in not bringing up Ernie Banks, who passed away this year, and the Cubs put him on their press book appropriately. Mr. Cub, one of the great guys. Just looking at his numbers, never got to a World Series. And there was one particular writer, Rich Cohen from Sports Illustrated, said that it wasn't easy to watch him fail, but it would have been intolerable to watch them fail without him. I thought that's a wonderful quote. One of the great guys. What a sweetheart of a man. Had a wonderful life.
And the Cubs have dedicated their season to the memory of Ernie Banks. And they called him Mr. Cub for a reason. He was more than just a great player. He was a great representative of that franchise and the first great power hitting shortstop.
Yes. Oh, there he is right there. Big, tall, lanky guy. 2,583 career hits. 512 home runs. Just a wonderful man. 1,600 plus runs batted in. Hall of Fame.
I thought of him on Sunday. He always said, "It's a beautiful day. Let's play two."
Let's play two.
Well, he played it 1 1/3 or so. 3-0 now to Murphy. So Hendricks appearing to lose command of the strike zone all of a sudden here in the 6th. You got Kadire on deck. Walk here would put the tying run at second. Murph generally doesn't swing 3-0, and he doesn't this time either. 3-1. Duda at first and 2 out, and Murphy swings at the curveball and flies it out to left field. Caesar's there to grab it, and so Hendricks gets through 6 scoreless innings. 1-0 Chicago. in the 6th. Kyle Hendricks, who had really been struggling, 6 scoreless innings. Michael Cuddyer has come out of this game. Daryl Siciliani is in to play left field. This is clearly an injury situation. We'll try and find out what kind of injury to Cuddyer. Injury or illness or something of that effect, because that spot in the batting order is due to lead off in the bottom of the 7th. Addison Russell leading off the top of the inning, and he pops one up into shallow center. And Lagares edging under it. 1 out.
Oh boy, the runs have been stingy.
Logan Verrett is the first man up in the Mets bullpen. Boy, does he look good.
I like him very much. He's young too.
He's had quite the grand tour this year. Hendricks talking over with his pitching coach Chris Bosio. He could well be done, even though he's got 6 scoreless under his belt and just 89 pitches. Just has not been working all that deep into games. Now Hector Rondon, who is nominally the closer for this Cubs team, is up in the bullpen. We mentioned earlier Joe Maddon does not necessarily follow the strict game plan where his bullpen is concerned. So he's got Rondon up ready to pitch the bottom of the 7th. And Fowler just got a piece of the curveball. Still 0-2. Fowler 1 for 3, singled back in the 3rd. Cubs 1 run, 4 hits. The Mets no runs, 3 hits. 2 teams that have been struggling with their offense. No change tonight. And he strikes him out with a curveball. 5 strikeouts for John. 2 down in the 7th.
Nice backdoor hook. There you go.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Anthony Rizzo, who has not had a good night at the plate, nubbed one that Plawecki threw him out on in the 1st, fouled out in the 3rd, grounded out in the 5th. It's hard to believe that 2 organizations traded Anthony Rizzo. Red Sox traded him to San Diego. You could understand that. That was for Adrian Gonzalez. And the Padres traded him to the Cubs for Andrew Cashner. He's a nice starter, but certainly at this point you think that Rizzo has a whole lot more value going forward. And now Neese behind him, 3-0 with Chris Bryant on deck. This could be Neese's last batter. He's at 106 pitches. And Rizzo swinging 3-0, flies it out to right center. Angling are the Lagares and Granderson, and Lagares makes the grab to retire the side. So Neese gets him 1-2-3, 7th inning stretch, 1-0 Cubs. Theme parks, plus stay on site at Universal's Cabana Bay Beach Resort. Just go to sny.tv/Toyota and enter the Toyota Fan Flyaway Sweepstakes for your chance to win.
Well, there's Hector Rondon, as Gary said. You see the 12 saves, but he's coming in here as a setup man in the bottom of the 7th. So it looks like Mott is probably going to close today.
Yeah, Jason Mott's been the most consistent reliever for the Cubs of late, but their entire bullpen's done awfully well, as we showed you graphically earlier. 1.72 ERA since May 23rd, third best in the major leagues. Daryl Siciliani took over for Michael Cuddyer. We're told Cuddyer left with a sore left knee. And so Siciliani took over last half inning in the field and now getting his first at bat. And he takes a fastball for a strike from Rondon. Bobby Parnell up in the Mets bullpen. Neese is due up 4th in this inning, and he's already thrown 107 pitches, so he's likely done in any event.
Another hard luck game if the Mets don't get a couple runs for him.
Been a lot of those for the Mets starters. And in Neese's case, if he doesn't get a win in this game, he will go 2 months without a win. May 9th, the last time he won a game. But the trend lines are all up for Neese. Certainly pitched very well tonight, allowed just 1 run over 7 innings, and pitching against a team that might be interested in his services in a trade. And it certainly works in the Mets' favor as well.
Yeah, see, the Dodgers have shown some interest.
As have the Cubs. '27-year-old Hector Rondon deals 3-1 to Siciliani, and he pulls one foul. Daryl got the start on Sunday behind Steven Matz, went 0 for 4. Well, congratulations to the USA women. They beat Germany, and they are now in the finals of the Women's World Cup. (3-2) to Siciliani with Flores on deck. And it's on the inside corner, and Rondon has a strikeout.
Right down the pipe. Actually, inside corner, pretty good pitch. Boy.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Flores.
Just a struggle, Garrett.
Well, you thought maybe with the inspiration of Steven Matz's bat on Sunday and the Mets scoring 7 runs in that game, maybe that would unleash the Mets offense. That has not been the case. You thought maybe the return of Daniel Murphy would do it. Murphy's picked up the only extra base hit for the Mets tonight, but that hasn't been enough either.
Historic debut with the bat for a pitcher.
Historic for anybody. The first Met player, position or otherwise, to drive in 4 runs in his first big league game.
Quite a performance. Love his hook. Love his poise. He has command of his pitches.
And with the Mets working a 6-man rotation and with the off day yesterday, Matz's next start will be Sunday in Los Angeles in the final game of that series. 3-0 to Flores. And there's a strike. So Rondon working behind his first 2 hitters. Came back to strike out Siciliani. Now he's 3-1 to Flores.
Chris Guccione, the home plate umpire. Low ball umpire, but been consistent.
And Flores reaches for it, hits it slowly out to Russell at second base, and there are 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Kevin Plawecki, who has one of the Mets' 3 hits. He's singled back in the second. Kyle Hendricks went 6 innings, allowed no runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. And for Hendricks, who had just 2 wins over his first 14 starts and an ERA approaching 4.5, that was a very important outing for him tonight. And he is in line for the win if the Cubs bullpen can hold a 1-0 lead. And a check swing foul ball, 0-1 to Plawecki. John Mayberry is out on deck to bat for Neese. Should Plawecki keep the inning alive?
Rondon is a hard thrower. Tends to be a little wild. It pitched behind the count. First two batters, but survived. He's got a good live fastball, good hard slider.
Castro in front of the grounder. Throws out Plawecki. Rondon works a 1-2-3 bottom of the 7th. On to the 8th we go at Citi Field. 1-0 Chicago. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Delta Dugout. Sign up today at Mets.com/Delta Dugout. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit Geico.com for a free rate quote. And by Good Humor, Keith knows all about this. From June 25th to July 14th, look for the Good Humor Joy Squad in your New York City neighborhood. Fits right in with you. You bring joy wherever you go.
I brought on their new trucks with computers and online capabilities. It was pretty amazing. I like the King Cone myself.
Bobby Parnell will work the 8th inning, facing Chris Bryant, who fouls one off. I've always been a fan of the chocolate eclair.
Oh, okay.
Bryant 1 for 2 and a walk, scored the only run of the game. After drawing a leadoff walk against Nice in the 6th, Matt Caesar drove him in with a 2-out double, and that has been it tonight for these two run-starved teams. Good curveball by Parnell when it's 0-2. Pedro Strop is up in the Cubs bullpen, ready to work the bottom of the 8th. This is the new Bobby Parnell, throwing 90, 91 miles an hour. Tonight's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. And Chris Bryant has the most hits among National League rookies.
Nice little infield the Giants found, huh? Nat Duffy.
In fact, they DFA'd Casey McGee again today for the 2nd time. Duffy is entrenched as their third baseman.
He's just played terrific.
But what of Bobby Parnell, guy we used to see throwing 98, 99 miles an hour. Now he's 90, 91, and he's been effective so far.
He's got a good breaking ball. With the mileage toned down, he's getting a little more break on his slider, and it's still got a lot of spin and it's tight.
So Gilmartin up in the bullpen.
He's throwing a lot more breaking ball of late since he's come back and been very effective.
14 months removed from Tommy John surgery. He bounces that breaking ball, and it's 3-2 to Bryant. Well, the Mets are going to get a boost in their bullpen next week. A week from tonight, Henry Mejia, barring a rainout between now and then, will be eligible to come back from his 80-game suspension. And I suspect that Henry, who's they say is throwing extremely well on his rehab, is going to go right into that 8th inning in front of Familia. Mets have been holding the fort for a long time in that bullpen.
Very peculiar swing from Bryant, and it works. He really drops his back shoulder, and that's trying to get the lift. Boy, he just really blocks too when he goes the other way. It seems he can maybe get him inside. We'll see. I have not seen enough of him. This is what I hate about the 3 divisions.
8th pitch of the at bat to Bryant, and Parnell misses with the breaking ball, and he walks him. Second straight time Bryant has walked to lead off an inning. The first time he came around with the only run of this game.
Good eye by Bryant.
So now let's see how Joe Madden plays it with a 1-run lead, and Starlin Castro coming up. Castro's walked twice and flied to center 0 for 1. He got Denorfia and Caesar scheduled to follow, but now with a right-hander in the game, they've got left-handed options on their bench. Guys like Mike Baxter and Chris Coghlan. For the moment, Denorfia is out on deck. John Neese went 7 innings, allowed a run on 4 hits, 4 walks, 1 intentional, 5 strikeouts. Another game where a Mets starter pitches well enough to win and doesn't get a win. Off the plate to Castro at 92 miles an hour. Neese's ERA through 15 starts is 3.90. Double play ball right at Tejada. Flores with the turn, right on target. 6-4-3 double play.
91 mile an hour is plenty as he just jams the heck out of Castro on an inside corner fastball, and tailor made right here. And here's the first DP with the new corner keystones out there. Oh, second
game they've played together.
We playing charades here. You get.
I'm just trying to remind you that yesterday was the first time that they played with this configuration.
But did they turn double play yesterday?
They did.
Okay, so it's their second. Okay.
They turned one just like that against Eugenio Suarez.
Okay.
And I mention that because I love saying Eugenio.
So I'm glad you do.
The red up alongside Gilmartin in the bullpen.
Where's Al? Or camera 2?
I believe he defected to the dark side. Fastball strike 0-1. But Vinny's doing a great job on Al's camera.
Yes, he is.
Vinny may not ever allow Al back. See,
there they are.
There's Al on the left. He is working for a different network tonight covering this game. But our guy Vinny, who knows exactly how to stay. There's Vinny. He steps right in, and look at the great job that he's doing tonight.
Who's the guy up there next to you?
That's Dave Freed.
Oh, jeez.
Parnell strikes out Denorfia. Plawecki makes the toss. Good inning for Parnell after the leadoff walk. That's look for offense in the bottom of the 8th, trailing 1-0. Plus, presented by Citi with limited commercial interruption. Our coverage begins tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We'll be doing extra interviews. Ronnie will be down in the bullpen. We'll have Terry Collins on headset during the game. Limited commercial interruption, presented by Citi. Mets Plus, Mets and Cubs tomorrow night. Check it out. Pedro Strop will come in to pitch the bottom of the 8th for Chicago.
Strop begins his 3rd season with the Cubs. Had a terrific year last year, 65 appearance, had an ERA of 2.21, and looks like he's doing much of the same this year.
Johnny Monell will lead off for the Mets, batting for Bobby Parnell. Monell, who got the start catching Steven Matz on Sunday, picked up a couple of hits in that game, which actually doubled his hit total for the season. It'll be Monell, then Juan Lagares and Curtis Granderson for the Mets in the home 8th. Mets have managed just 3 hits in this game. Duda singled in the 1st, Plawecki singled in the 2nd, Murphy doubled in the 4th, and that's been it. Al Hendricks went the first 6 for Chicago. Hard throwing Hector Rondon worked a 1-2-3 7th, and now equally hard throwing Pedro Strop in the 8th. And Monell takes a slider for a strike, 0-1.
Good one too, and he's got the funkadelic release, but he takes the ball from his glove. Very peculiar. Oh boy, he throws hard as right. And this guy's hat on like Green Acres. Give him an international harvester.
Monell lifts one to right center, and Murphy is right there to play it. 1 out. Well, we'll look at the Mets box score presented by Wise Snacks, but there's not a whole lot to see here. A lot of zeros on the left side of the ledger, and the Mets have grown accustomed to that. The Mets have already had 6 times this year where they've had 3 hits or fewer in a game, and they have just 3 hits so far tonight.
Well, if the Mets don't score here, it'll be very interesting in the 9th inning to see what choice Joe Maddon makes for relief. With Duda and Murphy would get up if it's a 1-2-3 inning here, and both left-hand hitters.
Well, he's got a couple of lefties in his bullpen, but it seems as though he is setting it up for Jason Mott to pitch the 9th.
I like this Strop kid. Every time I see him, he throws strikes. He throws hard.
Bouncing ball toward the middle. Castro flashes over, and the soft toss gets Lagares for the 2nd out.
Castro playing a very alert shortstop today. He's on his toes. Usually he has spells of falling asleep out there.
Well, now it's Granderson. Jerry's Familia hoping that the Mets can rally and get him in the game for the 9th, but if they don't, it'll probably be Gil Martin. Granderson 0 for 3 tonight, so his 8-game hitting streak in jeopardy.
Very deep in the outfield, center field particularly. No doubles.
Granderson 3 for 5 in his career against Pedro Strop, the former Oriole.
Interesting how the Cub middle infielders are playing 1 foot out in the grass. Very interesting. You got to come in 1 step. I'm sure they're going to come in 1 step and get off that grass and get on the dirt. And they do.
Strop, all breaking stuff to Granderson, falls behind 3-1 with Ruben Tejada on deck.
Red hot Granderson. No more left-handed bench for the Mets.
And another slider for a strike. 3-2.
Only Campbell and Mayberry left on the bench.
Michael Kadire left with a sore left knee. There's strike 3 called. He finally threw him a fastball, and it was knee high in the outside corner. And Granderson is caught looking. Strop with a 1-2-3/8. On to the 9th. Still 1-0 Cubs.
Impressive.
Is that correct? Data Strong fan. And you might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast brought to you by T-Mobile. That's hashtag SNY Data Strong Fan, or Data Strong Fan if you prefer that pronunciation.
Are you reading the small print too? Have you got time?
Go right ahead. Oh, ran out of time. Matt Caesar leads off in the ninth inning against Sean Gilmartin and swings over a changeup, 0-1.
You got to read the disclaimer.
No, you just have to acknowledge that it's there.
Don't do that. Don't tweet if you have allergies.
Caesar runs into it, but they say he was still in the batter's box, and so it's merely a second strike.
Gilmartin's been doing a nice job. Terry's been using him. I think been using the bullpen perfectly.
It's about 4 days early, isn't it?
A little jump start.
The July 4th rehearsal. Gilmartin hasn't pitched in a week. Last pitched in Milwaukee for a third of an inning last Tuesday night. Caesar's driven in the only run of this game with a long double to left, and he fouls off the changeup. Caesar 2 for 3 in this game, a single and a double. David Ross on deck, and then the pitcher's spot for the Cubs in the ninth. The Cubs have lost 5 straight games. This is a huge one for them to try to hang on to. Mets trying to preserve their winning streak, which is at 4 in a row right now. But another one of these games for both these teams where the scoring has just been excruciating. The Cubs have scored just 8 runs now in their last 7 games, including tonight. And Gilmartin strikes out Caesar to start the ninth.
Nice curve on the back door. Right to the glove. Oh, it's a changeup, sinking, beautiful. Remember in spring training, it was all he was throwing was curves.
Well, there's the Iona product, Jason Mott, up in the bullpen, getting ready for the save chance for the Cubs. David Ross has been intentionally walked, otherwise 0 for 2. Chris Coghlan is out on deck to pinch hit. They usually bring Coghlan in for defense anyway, so he'll bat for the pitcher. Good sinker that time by Gilmartin, and it's 0-2. It's been amazing to me how sharp Gilmartin's been able to stay with all his pitches with his appearances spread out the way they've been.
His confidence has grown as he's become more secure in his spot on this roster. Even though he's a Rule 5 guy.
Yeah, I asked him a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, he's always been a starter before this year. I said, did you ever consider dropping one of your pitches when you moved to the bullpen? He said, absolutely not. He says, that's what makes me effective, being able to throw 4 different pitches. Just awfully hard to do that in limited innings. And he strikes out Ross with a fastball. So back-to-back strikeouts for Gilmartin to start the top of the ninth.
The best I've seen a Gilmartin throw. Little late sink, very well done.
So now it's the former National League Rookie of the Year Chris Coghlan to pinch hit for the pitcher Strop, and they'll get Mott in for the ninth inning. Chris Coghlan has appeared in every game for the Cubs this year, either as a starter or off the bench. Generally starts against right-handers, but valued for his glove as well. And he takes inside ball 1. In the bottom of the ninth, the Mets will have 2, 3, and 4 in the order: Tejada, Duda, and Murphy, and then Siciliani if anybody gets on. So they've got lots of left-handed bats coming up against Jason Mott. Nice looking slider in for a strike, and it's 1-1 to Coghlan.
Coghlan 3 for 20 against left-handers this season.
Nubbed foul. Talking about the lefties coming up against Mott. Lefties are hitting 281 against them. The righties only 200. So the Mets will have the platoon advantage against today's closer for the Cubs. Certainly Mott, who at one time closed games full time for the Cardinals, has not been a full-time closer for Chicago.
Well, he had serious arm problems, right?
Yes, he did. 2-2 coming, and Coghlan bounces it foul. They have used Rondon for the majority of the save chances. Mott has 2 saves so far this year. So I find it interesting that in the midst of a stretch over the last 5 weeks where the Cubs bullpen has pitched pretty uniformly well, that Joe Maddon would disrupt that and change the order of his late inning pitchers.
He's always a little off center, isn't he? He's not mainstream. I mean, he's the one that told the players not to come to the ballpark at 12 noon. You know, he called it false hustle.
He's the one who had the magician in the clubhouse before the game today.
And he one that wanted to have the python, but it was on the road.
2-2. And Coghlan lifts it to shallow right center. Granderson makes the grab. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Sean Gilmartin. Last licks for the Mets. Down 1-0 in the bottom of the ninth. It's Geico Sports Night after the post game, and they'll have the soccer and the baseball and the basketball and all that stuff. And then don't forget, after Sports Night, Beat the Booth.
That's right.
Actually, Beat the Booth is before the Sports Night, right?
Well, you should be the headliner.
I think we messed that up right there. I think it's the post game, then Beat the Booth, then Geico Sports Night. I need a call on that from the truck. Jason Mott's going to pitch the bottom of the ninth.
Well, Mott's first year with the Cubs was the closer for the Cardinals, had led the league in saves in 2012 with St. Louis, 42. Tommy John surgery in 13, out the whole year. And now he's a Cub.
Ruben Tejada leads off the last of the ninth. Mets have already lost 3 1-0 games this year, trying to avoid a fourth. Tejada hit one deep to center field his last time up. Dexter Fowler got turned around twice but ran it down.
Third base, guarding the line. First base, off the line. Mott a hard thrower.
And this is high to Tejada, Duda and Murphy to follow. So there you go. Geico Sports Night after Beat the Booth, which is after the postgame show. Now we have it straight.
Okay.
That's tonight and tomorrow. Beat the Booth. Don't want to miss it. Now you're excused, though. You're allowed to miss it if you want.
No, I want to see it.
You do.
I want if I.
But what if we lose? Will you come in here tomorrow and berate me?
No, I'll comfort you and console you.
What a teammate you are. You're the captain. Jason Mott, who grew up in Montgomery, New York, went to Valley Central High School. Then was a catcher at Iona College before he converted to pitching. And still looks something like a catcher when he throws the ball.
No, Mott's still throwing hard, Gary. He just rears back and fires.
And Tommy John surgery that kept him out all of 13 and part of 14. Looking for his third save of the year. As Joe Madden going with a somewhat different bullpen configuration tonight. He used Rondon, who's been the closer in the 7th, Strop in the 8th. They each worked a 1-2-3 inning. And Tejada goes down on the slider. That's the first out of the 9th.
Took a little something off the slider here. Out of the strike zone, ahead in the count. Got Ruben to fish.
So now it's Duda, who's been on base twice tonight with a single and a walk. Lucas has had 2 career at bats against Mott, 1 for 2, and the hit was a home run. They leave Castro home on the left side. Bryant in shallow right field. In the shift. This is the final day of June, and Lucas Duda has hit only 1 home run in this month after hitting 7 in May.
It's been a deep, prolonged slump for Luke. High cheddar.
I think it started when you started calling him Little Luke.
You think?
Maybe. So Big Luke weighs in against Mott. See if that works. And he hits one sharply, but playing him perfectly is Castro. Or, excuse me, Russell. And that's the second out. So the Mets are down to their final out of the night. And Daniel Murphy, fresh off the disabled list, has had a terrific game tonight. Made some fine defensive plays. He has the Mets' only extra base hit. He's hit the ball hard twice in his 3 at bats. And he is the final hope for New York tonight.
Very deep in the outfield, no doubles. And corners are guarding both lines. Murphy, that can spray the ball all around. You do not want a 2-out double here.
That's at a double in the 4th from Murphy, and they've not had another hit since. And Murph lifts this one along the line. Castro with the angle over near the tarp, and it just goes into the crowd. Since Murphy's double in that 4th inning, the Mets have had only 1 base runner, a walk to Duda in the 6th. 16 of the last 17 Mets batters have been retired.
Got a lot of people on the order if they go down here that only got up 3 times.
And now it's 0-2 to Murphy, and the Mets are down to their final strike. Murph is 0 for 3 in his career against Mott. Eric Collins has seen way too much of this. Mets on the verge of being shut out for the 8th time this year unless Murphy has some heroics in him. Oh, 2. And Mott misses away. 1-2. Daryl Siciliani would be next. One and two to Daniel Murphy. And he hits it in the air to center. Easy for Fowler. And the Mets lose a 1-0 game for the 4th time this season, as they're held to just 3 hits by Kyle Hendricks and the Chicago bullpen. The last 10 Mets in a row are retired. John Neese loses a heartbreaker. The Cubs snap their 5-game losing streak. The Mets' 4-game winning streak is snapped as Chicago wins 1-0.
Well, just another tough night offensively for the Mets. Neese, my goodness, now 5 starts, 0-3 with 2 no decisions, and has pitched well. So Mets got to get their offense going, get some runs for this ball club that's been pitching lights out.
Michael Cuddyer left the game with a sore left knee. We'll see what transpires with that going forward as well. There's tonight's game summary presented by Verizon. John Neese did everything he could, but a leadoff walk and a double by Matt Caesar that drove in the game's only run cost him in the 6th inning as Chicago wins it 1-0. We'll come back with more from Citi Field in just a moment.